I am so happy to welcome Randy Harter to our Rotary Club today. Randy is an historian and author of 3 books on Fort Wayne history: Postcard History Series Fort Wayne, Legendary Locals of Fort Wayne, which some of our own Rotarians are in, and Fort Wayne Through Time, which will be presented shortly. In all, these books represent a photo archive of Fort Wayne's history. As a former and now retired sales and marketing executive, Randy is presently devoting his time to his passion of more than 45 years, researching and lecturing about Fort Wayne history. He is currently heading up a team that is chronicling for publication the last 150 years of Fort Wayne's architects and architecture. He's also the founder of the Fort Wayne Roundtable, which I hope he'll tell us more about. For a little more than 3 years, he and his daughter, Sarah Arnold, ran foodie tours of downtown Fort Wayne, which included historical and architectural commentary. Randy also lent his talents to conveying the excitement of our Fort Wayne rivers as a docent on Sweet Breeze, Fort Wayne's historic canal boat replica, which I hope you've all been on. For his efforts, Friends of the Rivers made him a Sweet Breeze captain. And since he missed the ceremony at which it was awarded, I'm presenting this to you now, Randy, virtually, and I'll mail it to you. And now for the program, let's welcome Randy to present Fort Wayne Through Time, a brief look at our history, past versus present. Randy?
Thanks, Irene.
Come on.
Okay, here we are. Thanks, Irene. I see some of my other pals on here, Dave Van Gilder, who has billed me accessibly over the years, and Lisa Esquivel, a good pal, John Hoffman, who was a fellow mentor for SCORE with me. So it's good to see some familiar faces. This Fort Wayne Through Time was a little project I was offered 2-3 years ago. And I was lucky enough to find a young photographer here in town to assist me with the project and do the photography, since if I don't have my cell phone, I can't take a picture. But at any rate, we had access to the News Sentinel, the Journal Gazette's archives, also to Arch and the Allen County Public Library, and a number of private collections of friends of mine who are interested in history. And so we went through them and chose close to 200 images that we thought we'd like to think about replicating with the view today. And we actually replicated around 120 of them in the end, and about 90 of them we put in the book. So I'm just gonna shoot through a dozen or so of these pictures and talk about them each a little bit. And hopefully somebody like Jeffrey Kroll won't send me an email later saying I said something wrong about the Allen County Public Library. This is my friend, that became my friend, Dan Baker, who did the photography. And we were lucky enough to get access to the roofs of a lot of buildings in downtown Fort Wayne, including the Baker Street Station, the St. Joe Hospital helipad, Anthony Wayne Bank Building. We're on Three Rivers Apartments here, Lincoln Tower. We're on One Summit Square. I've got him in the back of a pickup truck in this case, sitting in front of the Hilton Hotel. But in every case, we are replicating an image that had been taken from this location previously. Because we're working off of computers today, I didn't use many of the aerials, as I call them, because the detail kind of falls into the background. But I know a lot of you will recognize this block, of course. We've got here the Grand Leader / Stillman's department store. It was designed by A.M. Strauss in the Art Deco style. It was clad in white terracotta and was a beautiful building. The Grand Leader department store chain was owned by John Stillman, and at some point he decided he wanted his own name on the stores instead of Grand Leader, so he changed it to Stillman's, and I'm sure a lot of us shopped there over the years. Down here on this corner, if you can, everybody see my mouse arrow? Okay. Down on this corner is the old W&D's department store. It was there from 1919 to 1959. That was the department store until they built a new one where the Citizen Square is now. Here's the old People's Trust Bank. Down here is what was called the utility building, which NIPSCO was in. And of course, all of this block was leveled and replaced by One Summit Square, which we now call Indiana Michigan Power Center. And we'll just scoot right along here, or we'll try. I kind of like this picture here. It's kind of a nice misty look down Berry Street. Our photographer standing in the just past the intersection of Harrison. And you can see on the right here is the old Baltes Hotel, which was a 60-room male-only hotel. It was built in 1908. And where it sat is now the parking lot next to Star Bank and where their drive-through is at. Next to it's the old First National Bank, which as a result of the Depression became Fort Wayne National Bank. It was built in 1920 and is still standing there, of course. The next building down is Sears and Roebuck. They occupied this building here until 1953 when they built their new store, and it opened at the corner of Rudisill and Clinton Street. And this building has recently been redone in the past few years and is the home of the software company Aptera. Over here on the left corner, of course, is the old Anthony Wayne Hotel, 263 rooms, a very opulent hotel on the inside. And it was leveled with explosions in January of 1974 to make a parking lot for the new Fort Wayne National Bank. These images here that I've bracketed in purple, the purple takes up the same space in both cases. Some people don't realize, but this is actually the courthouse we have now is the fourth courthouse that has set on what was called the public square. The first courthouse was down here in this corner. It was a two-story log building, and it was built in the 1832 and was taken down in 1841. Then the next courthouse was a real plain two-story brick courthouse, which sat right in the middle of the square and had a little cupola on top. This courthouse here was built in 1862 with the promise that it would last 100 years, which of course it didn't. But you can't tell from this view, but if you look down on this courthouse, it's actually shaped like a cross. And on either end of this courthouse was a little niche, and on one side was a statue of George Washington, and on the other side of the building was a statue of Little Turtle. And here on the corner was a little drinking fountain with a gazebo over it and a beautiful copper eagle on top. One of the great Fort Wayne artifact mysteries is what became of the two statues. Nobody seems to know. And in digging through newspapers of the era, no mention is ever made of what became of the statues. It's hard to imagine they just got tossed away. So if one of you has it in your backyard, please let me know if you would. Also, this gazebo was moved to Sweeney Park in 1897. And we know it was still there in 1908 because we have pictures of it there in 1908. But when it disappeared, we don't know. And neither does anyone know what became of the big copper eagle. If one of you has it in your man cave, please drop me a line. I'm sure the History Center would like to know about it. But our gorgeous courthouse here was begun in 1897 when they tore down the old 1862 courthouse. It was completed in 1902 at the then huge sum of, including furnishings, of $800,000. A lot of people were against spending that much money, especially back at the turn of the century. But it has certainly stood the test of time with a lot of TLC over the years. The architectural style is Beaux Arts, and it was designed by Tolan. It was the only building he designed in Fort Wayne, Brentwood Tolan. But he lived here for many years and designed other courthouses all over the Midwest. And as you can see here, our old courthouse was 160 feet tall, and this one's 225 feet tall. So anyway, kind of quite a history behind the courthouses on the public square. Only two people have laid in state in our courthouse. The first one was Major General Henry W. Lawton, who was who was killed in the Philippines. He was a Medal of Honor winner, and he laid in state there in 1900. And then the next person and the other person to lay in state there was World War I flying ace, Lieutenant Bear, who was killed in December of 1930, and he laid in state there in 1931. Kind of an interesting little aside, but Paul Bear had a number of different jobs in aviation after World War I. His last was helping develop a flying routes for China. And the way that he died was he was flying a float plane off of the Yangtze River in China, and one of his pontoons clipped the top of a Chinese junk, and he flipped over and drowned. Kind of a bizarre story. Anyone who's watching this who's under the age of 40 years old, you'd be forgiven if you thought the Courthouse Green was always there, because it's absolutely perfect the way that it sets off the east side of the courthouse. It certainly appears as though it belonged. And however, until the mid 1990s, that block was full of buildings. The picture that I show here is from 1925. Most of us will remember that in later years, this block, the major company on the block was First Federal Savings and Loan, where the Farmers Trust Company is here on the corner, was their parking lot. But in this image here at the end of the block is the Pixley Long building, which faced where the photographer's at. In the middle of the block here was the German American Bank. Prior to World War I, it was people thought that over 50% of the population in Fort Wayne were either German immigrants or descendants of German immigrants. That made the German American Bank, in spite of the fact there were a number of other banks in Fort Wayne, the biggest, most successful bank in Fort Wayne. And they held a very prestigious spot here facing the east side of the courthouse. It was started by David Foster, who also started Lincoln National Life Insurance Company. And along comes World War I, and all of a sudden, anything that has the word German in it is not very popular. So David Foster changed the name of the bank from the German American Bank to the Lincoln National Bank. So you'd have two Lincolns in the family. And then later on, 4 years after this image was taken, they took down the Pixley Long building, and the Lincoln National Bank Tower was put in its place. Lincoln Tower, when it was completed in the fall of 1930, was the tallest building in Indiana. And it's a title that it held for 32 years until 1962, when the City County building was built in downtown Indianapolis, which supplanted that building. I don't know if any of us here are old enough to remember, but this little building right here was where you went downstairs to the restrooms underneath the sidewalk, which probably wouldn't happen again today. In 1924, the News Sentinel hired an aerial photographer from the East Coast to come to Fort Wayne and shoot a series of pictures of downtown. This is one of my favorites. We're looking at, sorry about that. We're looking here at the Wells Street Bridge, which of course is still standing. It was built in 1884. Here's the Harrison Street Bridge, which since this image was taken in 1924, has been replaced with a new Harrison Street Bridge. When this bridge was first built in 1915, it was called the Lincoln Highway Bridge because at the time the Lincoln Highway came through Fort Wayne in 1913, it crossed the St. Mary's River on the old Wells Street Bridge, which wasn't, as you know, a very wide bridge, plus the fact that it had a set of trolley tracks across the bridge. So it was felt a new bridge was needed. And when they completed this bridge, as you may know, the Lincoln Highway started in Times Square in New York City, and it crossed the United States and ended in Lincoln Park in San Francisco. So at any rate, when they completed this bridge, they put a plaque on the end of the bridge that said, in essence, from this bridge to New York City is 724 miles, and to San Francisco is 2,660 miles. And when they built the new bridge some years back, they took the plaque off the old bridge and they put it on the new bridge. So if you're ever downtown and you're doing the circle here in Headwaters Park, take a second to stop and see kind of a really neat piece of Fort Wayne history, Lincoln Highway history, and just plain Americana. This is the only aerial image that has ever been taken of the old League Park, which was the big baseball stadium and what is now Headwaters Park. It was built in 1883, and to hold 1,500 people. When this picture was taken in 1924, it had been expanded a number of times and held 5,000 people. 6 years after this picture was taken, an arsonist set it on fire, and the stadium was burned down. And given the fact that we had just entered the Depression, it was not rebuilt. And in fact, during the Depression, this whole area of the Thumb became Fort Wayne's Hooverville and was full of tents and tar paper shacks through the Depression. For those of you who have eaten at the gas house, and I'm sure everybody here can easily raise their hand on that one, this is the big gas holding tank that sat in the parking lot behind today's current gas house. And of course, the gas house was so named because this whole block here and the block across the street backing against the nickel plate railroad tracks was all part of the gas company, where they manufactured coal gas. At the time, natural gas was not being piped into Fort Wayne. And so a lot of municipalities had a coal gas plant. It was privately owned, but, and as an oversimplification, they heated up coal in an enclosed vessel. They captured the gas fumes that came off of the coal. They put it in these large gas holders. This gas holder was like a Boy Scout camping cup, where it collapses when it's empty, and as it fills with gas, the sides rose up. So at any rate, they captured the gas, put it in the gas holder, and then piped it out to people's homes in Fort Wayne, primarily for cooking and lighting, back when a lot of homes had gas lights in them. Heating was mostly still done with coal. Here's another shot of the Thumb. Some of you, I'm sure, are going to remember the flood of 1982. I remember going down to the city garage and helping fill sandbags. But Uh, the flood of '82 was the impetus to finally do something about the thumb, which flooded every so often. The last major flood before the flood of '82 was in 1913, but even during that period between 1913 and 1982, there was still smaller floods when there was heavy rains and heavy ice melts. So the city, along with federal money and state money, because it was considered a flood mitigation project, was able to purchase all of these properties on the thumb. Some of you may remember there was a A&W root beer stand right here. This was Spot Home Center. This was Poinsett Chrysler Plymouth. The National Guard Armory sat here. A number of industrial and warehouses were in this area here. Some of you may remember Seat Cover Charlie in his commercials, where said he'd give them away, but his wife won't let him. And of course, Club Soda was there, and the building was there, and the gas house was there. But at any rate, for a little over 16 million, actually 16.9 million, so about $17 million, this whole property was purchased, leveled, and the beautiful Headwaters Park, designed by local architect Eric Kuhn, was put in its place. And I have to say that my personal feelings are is it's some of the best money that was ever spent in downtown Fort Wayne. Real bonus that it's there. Just for fun, I'm tossing in this picture here. Keeping in mind, this picture is 88 years old. And I'm wondering whether these enamel top tables and bar stools are just about paid for, probably. Hard to imagine. What's even harder to imagine is this wonderful refrigerator that was made by McCray Refrigeration in Kendallville is still sitting there today. I'm sure it's been worked on many times over the years, but these people now know how to recycle and reuse. Down here, facing us here is Jimmy Toderin, who some of you may know, and know that he, along with Kathy Choka, are the owners of the Coney Island hot dog stand, which has been in business since 1914. This is a Bar Street market, then and now. When the Bar Street market was originally called the Hanna Place Market, because Sam Hanna gave this property to the city of Fort Wayne to use for a outdoor market. And until 1910, from 1837, it was nothing more than a row of 2 rows of tables for a block and a half that farmers would come to on and display their wares. In 1910, William Mahurin, the architects who designed the city building back here, which is now the History Museum. They also designed the Electron Building on Berry, the Hanna Mansion, dozens of houses and other buildings in Fort Wayne. But at any rate, William Mahurin in 1910 designed this Bar Street Market, which had 112 stalls. It was open 6 days a week, and it was the city's fresh food market. Along comes the supermarkets, and in 1957, they decided that the Bar Street Market was no longer necessary. So in 57, they took down this section here between the back of the city building and Wayne Street. And then in 1958, this section here that went from Wayne Street up to Washington was taken down. This is a building that I'm sure is very near and dear to Irene Walters' home. This, of course, is the home of Barrett McNagny now. But when this picture here was taken in 1907, it was in the middle of the GAR encampment in Fort Wayne. 15,000 people descended on Fort Wayne, and the first floor of the Electron Building was the temporary offices of the encampment, and also on the parade route. So they built a big temporary arch over Berry Street, and had quite a to-do for a week or so. The Electron Building has had, which was, excuse me, with the major investor in the building was Ranald T. McDonald, not Ronald, Ranald with an A, but Ranald T. McDonald had founded the Jenny Electric Company. And because of his interest and involvement in electricity, he named the building Electron with a K instead of a C. The building's had quite a storied past. It's a neoclassical revival style. And while our courthouse was that we have now was being erected between 1898 and 1902, this acted as the Allen County courthouse. While our old Carnegie Library, which we all recall probably sat at the corner of Wayne and Webster, was being built. This acted as the Allen County Public Library, which was from 1901 to 1903. And then this was the home office to the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company from 1912 to 1923. In 1923, their new offices were completed on Harrison across from the federal courthouse, and they moved out of this building. They continued to own it for a number of years. And for quite a number of years, it was called the Standard Building. So if you ever see addresses that somebody's office was in the Standard Building, it was in the Electron Building here. This beautiful Art Moderne streamlined Greyhound Bus Station is probably one of the city's biggest architectural fails, I would say, as far as preservation. The building was built in 1938. It was one of dozens of Greyhound bus stations built across the United States that were all done in this style, designed with what they called Greyhound blue steel enamel panels. They all incorporated glass blocks and were trimmed in white neon. The building sat empty for a number of years and was boarded up, and then unfortunately was razed in 1992. I can't say as what we've replaced it with is bad, but it would certainly be nice if the building was still there today. This building here was the English Terrace Restaurant. And of course, the Indiana Hotel and the Embassy Theater are down here in the next block. The Columbia Street is used to be 5 blocks long. We have 1 block of it left. The 5th block was underneath under what is today Three Rivers Apartments. So it ran all the way to the confluence of the Three Rivers. In 1975, we had a number of arson fires in Fort Wayne. The original Dean Museum in Franke Park was burned down. Part of the Follinger Theater in Franke Park was burned down. And then during the night, I believe it was in February of 1975, the old Rosemarie Hotel, which had sat here at this location since the 1800s. It had had a number of names over the years. It was originally the Wayne Hotel. It was the Jones Hotel. Eventually became the Rosemarie. But the Rosemarie Hotel was set on fire. It had 95 rooms in it, and while it was well past its prime architecturally, it was still a very beautiful building inside and out. While the firemen were fighting this fire over here, the same arsonist, it is assumed, set this building on fire. This was the Bash Block, which housed old Fort Draperies and Protective Electric. And so they fought the fire throughout the night. And unfortunately, both buildings were lost. At one point, they thought they could save the brick facades and build in behind them, but it was determined that it was too unsafe to do that. So recently, of course, with the renovation of the Columbia Street, the apartment complex was built in the slot that was the Rosemarie, and this where the Bash building was is now a parking lot, and which allows us to show off the beautiful bison that was painted on the side of the wall. Incidentally, these 2 limestone obelisks that you see here And then you see again here, those came off of the front of the old Scottish Rite Cathedral. They're sitting right there. The Scottish Rite Cathedral was taken down in the mid-60s, but it was kind of neat that somebody, and I don't know who, saved the obelisk and had them moved to the end of Columbia Street. The other thing that's in this picture here, this upside down capitol here is one of the capitals from atop of the entrance to the old Allen County Public Library, our Carnegie Library. This is kind of a neat shot from 1966, taken from the top of Lincoln Tower. The thing that I really like about the picture is the fact that you can see the new Allen County Public Library is being built here. This is where the old beautiful Carnegie Library sat, which had Fort Wayne had way outgrown. At that point, a number of other buildings in the area along Washington and Webster were being used for the library as well. But at any rate, we see here the new library is being built. Here in the picture is also still standing the old YWCA, which wasn't taken down at that time, but was taken down later during further expansions. Let's see here. Here's the old Keenan Hotel and the old St. John's Church, both of which the Graham Wayne Center is sitting atop of now. This building here is the old Allen Hotel, which was also called the Portland Apartments. It came down as part of the 2007 expansion of the library, further expansion, and is now a parking lot, which is used a lot by patrons and library employees. Sitting over here at the back is the old Jefferson School, which is, thank God, it's been replaced by a McDonald's. We really needed another McDonald's. And then we can see over here is the Harrison, and of course, where you folks normally meet at the Tin Cap Stadium. It's kind of an interesting shot. Boy, I tell you, talk about how a block changes. This picture was taken from the top of the courthouse dome 113 years ago. And you'll see here we have, this is the old Temple Theater, which was the Masonic Temple. It burnt down in 1923. We've got the old, oops, it's about time. My daughter just gave me a note and says my 20 minutes are up. So I'll just finish up real quick here. This is the old federal building. This was the original federal courthouse in Fort Wayne, and also the main post office, which was replaced by the post office on Harrison Street. And I'm gonna flip right along here. This is my last slide, and it's probably the most important slide. I like this picture. It was lent to me by the News Sentinel. Of the Bubble Up trucks out front. Bubble Up was a lemon lime soda like Sprite or 7-Up, and it was manufactured in this building here. This building now, of course, is the Hall Community Arts building, and it's the home to the Cinema Center, and I believe the Dance Collective is upstairs. But when Anthony Wayne arrived in Fort Wayne on September 17th of 1794, with his 2,600 troops, it was this location that he chose to build the fort. His troops spent the next 5 weeks leveling the woods from this location all the way down to the rivers, so that if somebody was coming up the St. Mary's or up the St. Joe or up the Maumee, I've got my ups and backs reversed on some of that, but nonetheless, if anybody was coming up the rivers from this location, they would have been able to look down the hill and see them. It took them 5 weeks to complete the fort. It was completed, and on October 22nd of 1794, Wayne had his second in command, Colonel Hamtramck, call together all the troops to the parade ground. He read a proclamation that in essence said that forevermore, this will be known as Fort Wayne. And so it was on that day of October 22nd, 1794, that we got our name. Anthony Wayne saddled up along with some of his troops 2 days later and rode off, never to return. So he was in Fort Wayne for about 5 weeks. And 2 years after he left, he died in Fort Presque Isle, which is now Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to end it right there. I could prattle on all day. Thank you.
Randy, thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Randy? If you have a question, please.
Yeah, I have a question.
Thank you.
This is Barb. I was just wondering, outside of the Greyhound Station, because I did live in town when it was there, and it is gorgeous. What other Art Deco site do you think is gorgeous besides the Lincoln Tower? Because that was such a very lovely building time.
Well,
What are some other examples?
that we lost. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That we lost. Of course, the Stillman's building downtown was beautiful. I mean, it was clad in white terracotta, and when the light hit it, it was just gorgeous. But during the Art Deco period, a number of buildings were built in Fort Wayne, and very few of them still exist. The Troy Laundry Building on Calhoun, which is now a health center,
Yeah.
is another good example. And that also is clad in terracotta, as is the old Rialto Theater.
Mhm.
Those are
Oh,
about
yeah.
those are a few of the only ones that still are.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Barb, for helping me put together some information before our talk today. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Randy, thank you so much. We appreciate this look back at town.
Thank you.